Where do I start? They say life imitates art. I'm trying to paint a picture. Paint a picture that's licking you scripture. I ain't just another nigga. Another nigga with a dream. It seems we finally made him all believe. A dream to be the reason we come to achieve. The life that we would all kill for, even die for. I score, so sick, so sick. Sick and tired of these little kids talking wrong shit.
What? You're not nervous.
I'm nervous. I am nervous.
Why are you nervous? What be nervous about?
Me making a giant idiot out of myself.
Ruth, you have your own podcast, Kate.
Oh yeah, right.
You should be able. You should know how to do all this stuff.
I do know how to do all this stuff.
Okay, good, because you do, and you're kick ass at it. By the way, I gotta let you know. I just gotta let you know. Ruth is kicking ass in the podcast world. Let me hear your microphone.
Hello. Do you want me to move this in closer to my...
How does that sound?
Oh, wow.
Is that better?
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, I do like that.
Okay, cool. So you can stay right there. I'll stay right here.
Okay.
I move my microphone around a lot, so I have the trolley, dolly, arm thingamajigbob.
Yeah, that's nifty.
Thingamajigbob.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to
call
it.
I like the thingamajigbob.
Thingamajigbob. Recline the seat. I gotta get comfortable. Oh, Ruth.
Hey.
Ruth McMullen. Okay, so hold on.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to the Changing Narrative podcast. What episode were you on before? Do you remember?
No, I'm sorry, I don't remember.
52. I think it was 52.
Was it 52?
51 or 52. 51 or 52. I think it was 51. It was right after the anniversary.
Yeah, I remember listening to that podcast.
Yes. Thank you.
And thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy that Ruth McMullen is here. Before we continue, I have to let everybody know that I'm your host of the Changing Narrative podcast. My name is Terrence Taylor. There's this thing I do where I forget. I was listening to your podcast, actually, and you do a very good job of introducing yourself and your show immediately. I definitely don't do that. Sometimes we just like to talk, and then sometimes it'd be like 45 minutes in. I'd be like, I didn't even tell the new person who's listening who I am. Because I should probably do that. I just want to do it. So I would need to commend you, Ruth McMullen of Halifax Social Network, also of Optimistically Depressed podcast, brand new as of 2019. She's here. She's here to talk about all the teens, all the teen peens about being a podcaster. And we really just going to talk about your podcast. That's what I want to talk about is your podcast.
Okay, awesome.
He was at PodCamp and he talked about Optimistically Depressed. And I got to film some cool things because we're going to make a cool video for PodCamp for next year. So keep on the lookout for that. You're going to be one of the stars of it because I got the most footage. So, superstar.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Look, you know what? You make me shine.
That's my job.
And it's true in more than one aspect of my life.
What you mean?
Because, like, when I first started to get into podcasting,
okay,
you were the one that basically was like, yeah, you're so good. Like, you were so encouraging. You helped me be confident in who I am. And you helped reflect truth. And then you were, while doing that, helping me also reflect truth.
Helping reflect the truth.
You're shining me up like a star.
That's why I love doing what I do. Because I'm just here as the facilitator of conversation. Mm-hmm. You just have to be yourself and you say a bunch of stuff and then I snip, snap, chip, chop it.
Yeah.
Piece it all together.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, look at me. I'm a superstar. You already was a superstar. I just took the camera and press record and then piece it together and then show the people. So I'm just showing people what you already is. So keep doing you and keep doing podcasts because this will be what episode? You just put out episode 7?
I just put out episode 7.
Okay, so I just got all kinds of questions. So I'm just going to start asking you questions.
Okay.
Because I'm curious about all things.
Awesome.
So It's called Optimistically Depressed.
Yes.
Why?
Because I feel that perfectly describes me.
Keep going. What do you mean?
One thing that I heard so often after I started to tell people that I was like that I had depression was that it was like, but you seem like such a like a happy-go-lucky kind of person.
Right.
And like some people had a difficult time even believing that I had it because they just couldn't imagine me as like a sad person.
Right.
And it was just kind of like, well, like I'm trying here. And also I'm out and in front of you and I don't want you to know that I'm depressed. So I'm going to be behave in a happy-go-lucky way. And it also was, you know, what I was talking about earlier with like needing to reflect a certain image in order to protect like physically or like very seriously protect yourself. Right. I felt that I couldn't let people see that as because I believed it to be a weakness. And because like really like in a very real way, it is a weakness. Like it keeps you in bed. It makes it so that all
depression, you mean?
Yes. Like, don't you find that people just kind of treat you like you're weak? If you have depression, like they do that.
But how many people are willing to admit that they're depressed to then have their depression used against them? Mm-hmm. We hold that against people, but like people aren't waving their depression flag and then we're shunning them. Like if anything, those who are being honest about these things were usually, you would think, to be more receptive of because they're kind of catalyst for creating a conversation that needs to be had. Mm-hmm. But it's fucked up because we're all depressed and sad. And we all have shitty days. So why are any of, at what point can or should any of us be judging anybody else for being human, essentially? Mm-hmm. Like that's when you, because you were talking about image earlier before we started recording, like, okay, image matters until what point? Mm-hmm. Then at what point does it not? Who gives a fuck? What if people are willing to think some bullshit about you? Then are these people's opinions that we even should care about? Yeah,
you make an awfully good point. I think when it gets to a point where it starts to isolate and hurt people, which that point happens very quickly.
The isolation.
Yeah. Because you're giving a certain impression about what life is like and they look at that and they think, okay, well, that's normal. Right. And I'm missing out. There's something not normal about me. And so I don't want to admit this because then people will know that I'm abnormal.
But aren't we all just abnormal? Aren't we all just weird?
Yes, we are. Like, we just don't realize it. Well, humankind doesn't realize it.
But we're all fucked up. Mm-hmm. So why are we not all embracing our fucked upness? That is the you know what? We should just end the podcast on that. Accept our fucked upness.
Yeah. Why not?
End of the show. But it's true, though. Mm-hmm. I think that's the interesting part about the stigma around depression, but it's a stigma around anything, really. It's like, if we shine the lens on you and your bullshit, we would find some shit that you don't want people to see. And that's everyone. Yeah. So where does the judging come from?
And I would say it comes from a place of insecurity because you're needing to tear somebody else down in order to make you feel like you're okay.
That sounds like something a depressed person would do. We're all just sad together. Yeah. Why can't we just be sad together?
You know what? We need to be sad together sometimes.
We do need to be sad together.
Yeah, it's very important. It's all about carrying each other.
We were sharing some intimate stories before we pressed record.
Yes.
And I felt some moments of, it wasn't even sad. It wasn't sadness. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, I'm reminiscing on this moment that I usually try not to talk about. Yeah. And then talking about it to somebody who I didn't expect to be sharing this with. Like, you just said the word. So Ruth said the word suicide, and I told Ruth a suicide story about an experience of mine, and it just came out of nowhere. I feel it would be disservice to people if we just kept talking about this thing and not giving any details. Yeah. So
I think, and that's what I'm trying to be doing more of anyway.
What do you mean?
Like being not afraid to like talk about those very serious issues that nobody talks about, because that's when we can talk about those serious issues. It makes them, while they were abnormal because you just don't ever hear about them, they're becoming normal because it's like, well, yeah, I know it's very serious, but you can deal with that because it's not abnormal.
Yeah, Ruth, I shared my juicy bits.
Yeah, you did.
But I think there's something to that. I think there's the safe space that you've clearly created that people can just say some shit that they probably wouldn't just say to the average person. I think you and your willingness and openness from like the very beginning, it's a technique that I implement when I do workshops and when I do presentations. It's like, all right, everyone, here's my shit. And I just put it out there right off the bat. And then people know my shit. So they're not, first of all, I'm not trying to be high or mighty. I'm actually like really humbling myself like right off rip and saying I'm pretty fucked up like everybody else. So when I tell you all my fucked up stories, you now feel comfortable to tell me your fucked up stories. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh yeah, we all fucked up together. And I think I think you do that very well. I don't know if you do it intentionally, but I think your podcast does that. I think you as a person, I think you do that and just like I felt like I knew Ruth before I like met Ruth and like spent time with Ruth. And then when I spent time with Ruth, I was like, oh yeah, I feel like this is what I knew Ruth would be like before I even like met Ruth. Like, it's just like this real, honest, open, we can all be shitty together. It's cool. And I want to thank you for being like that type of a person, because I too am that type of a person. Yes, and that shit is fucking hard, man. It's exhausting and it hurts, and you wake up and you do it anyway. Yeah. Why?
Well, let me tell you a story.
Okay, here we go.
When I was a little girl, I would be talking to my grandmother about some of the difficult things that I had gone through. And I was feeling sorry for myself, basically. It was just kind of... No. It wasn't that I was feeling sorry for myself. It was that I was feeling isolated. Okay. I was feeling isolated, and she would just look at me and she would just say, you know, Ruth, everyone has a story. Mm-hmm. And that helped me just realize, yes, we all have our story. We all need to be given an opportunity to share our story and know that it's important, and it's also what brings us together. Mm-hmm. And we can all relate in some kind of way. Like we might each go through an experience that brought us some pain. Yeah. And it would have been different experiences that we went through, but we could still experience the same pain. Mm-hmm. And that's what brings us together. And that's why we don't need to feel so isolated and alone and ashamed. And yeah.
Is that kind of why the podcast became a thing? Mm-hmm. To break down some of this isolation that people often in our so-called connected digital world, that we're just not really connected at all. Yeah. Like, talk about some of the why and some of the, I mean, they could be personal experiences of isolation or just like the feeling or kind of like what is happening in the world now that you were like, you know what, I have to do this.
I started to become very aware of other people's pain. Okay. I started to become, I think, pretty good at recognizing when somebody is hurting, because when you've hurt, then it's easier to recognize it. And because I could relate to them, I just felt so awful that they were feeling that way and were thinking that they were alone in feeling that way. Yeah. So then I thought, well, the way that I can help relieve that Like this is what I've been born with. This is what I am good at doing. And so if there's a way of me using what I've been given to help relieve pain, then it would be a stupid thing not to do that.
What do you think the thing is that you've been given? If you could put air quotes around it.
Air quotes around it. Well, kind of what you were saying, what you were talking about earlier about how maybe I do kind of create a space where people feel that they can talk about deeper things. And so, and I think, and as a side note, I think I learned that technique from my grandma.
How?
Because she was that person. So, and she spent so much time sitting and talking with me and creating a space where I can talk about anything. Yeah. If I can do that too, because I've been told by people that I can, then why wouldn't I do that? And since I have this technology more at my fingertips, thanks to Sean,
right?
Like I then have more of the ability to do it. So it just feels like more of a responsibility to do this.
When you say thanks to Sean, what do you mean by that?
He does most of the technical stuff.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So you just share your voice.
I share my voice. Although I'm starting to set the things up by myself because I know I have to learn how to do that too. But he's the one that's basically, he's giving me the tools, whether it be in his services for the time or teaching me how to do something so that I can do it on my own.
Right.
He's the one that's making that happen.
Gotcha.
He's always the person that makes things happen in my life. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. I'm pretty privileged. Sometimes I feel like I'm like a pampered sissy woman.
What do you mean?
It seems that a lot of the reasons why I succeed at something is because Sean was already there and he put down the brickwork.
Yeah, the foundation for it.
Yeah, my success is largely dependent upon his success. But one thing that Sean brings up all the time is that the only reason why he could be successful is because of what I did. So
I was just going to ask, like, is it a bad thing that your success is dependent upon his success or vice versa? I
would say no, but it can be perceived as a bad thing.
What do you mean?
Because have you ever had that feeling where like you're looking at the success of another person and you're like, well, yeah, but they didn't have to know the hard work that went into getting that success because so that's how I feel people would look at me. But the truth is that Sean and I both put in the same amount of hard work in order to make each of us as successful as we are. It was just in different forms.
And this is back to the image conversation of like, what people see and how they feel about what they may or may not know.
Yeah.
That's gotta be tough.
Yeah.
Is this like a constant thought?
I think it is. Like, I think sometimes it's like much louder and other times it's kind of more of like a very faint whisper in the back of my head. Yeah. But it's there pretty much all the time. I feel like Sean and I've had quite a few conversations around it. And he's always just so encouraging and kind of helping point out like, no, you worked hard. Look, this is the way that you worked hard.
Yeah.
So it's just like you brought your own success in the way that you worked hard in this area.
Right. We were talking earlier about just like that, my admiration for like your teamwork, your partnership, and what you two have created and like what you've done together. And I'm asking these questions because I think it's really cool to see people in relationships and who like get each other and like are helping each other do the thing that makes them happiest.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to be selfish and care about what you want and like neglect the thoughts and feelings of another person for your own selfish gain. Like we are humans. Like we're here to look out for ourselves.
Right.
But we're also here to look out for others.
Yeah.
That's kind of the core of humans. Right. So there's this like, it's just a very interesting, like how do you balance loving and caring for somebody else, but like also like doing enough for yourself to be like still feel like sufficient, like satisfied with
I think that it's really when you start to realize that you need to not work for trying to get the time that you need for yourself, but to work to make sure that the other person has the time that they need for themselves. Because if you do that, then a natural result of it is for them to then be like, oh, I feel refreshed and ready. And I can see that you need some time to hit the refresh button. So
if you do for others, then it will come back to you. So you just trust to do.
Yeah, you trust. It's like you trust that they're as loving as you should be in a marriage.
Which is rare.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but
yeah, you do. You see it everywhere. I'm
just glad I get to see I've seen some shitty ones, but Mike and I had this conversation about, and even we had this conversation on the last episode about modeling. Like, how do we learn the things we learn? It's because we've seen other people do these things. And so now we know because we've witnessed. So it's like some of the things we may or may not learn because we've never seen them. And so then you see stuff and you're like, oh, this is the thing that I heard about, but I never saw before. So I like having the let's talk about healthy relationships and love and what they look like. And because I like seeing it to then know how to do it. And it's just a thing I got to practice more. So I want to surround myself with people who are in love so I can understand what the real shit looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And it's funny. I think that the reason why we are as normal and in love as we are is because of Sean. It's like he's an incredible person. And I didn't grow up surrounded by a lot of great marriages. So I was also kind of lost as to what that actually looked like. And so it was him that while I thought that I was doing the right thing, he was the one that was gracious enough to know what the right thing to do was and do it and not act selfishly.
Y'all are cool, yo. And you're working together to make the podcast. You said he's doing technical stuff. You're learning it, but you work.
But right now, he helps make sure that it's the sound is good.
Right.
That before
all those things.
Yeah.
All the techie nerdy things. Yeah. So you're on episode 7. You started when?
I think that we did the first podcast in January, but we did the video that I had with Rachel right before Christmas. So the very first kind of more interview type thing. Okay.
So because I saw when do they come out? They've just been coming out, haven't they?
They've just been coming out as I do them. Same day.
I love it.
Within 10 minutes.
I love it.
Yeah.
You just going, you just doing.
Yeah. I kind of feel like I should actually make sure I have a couple in the bank just so that I could take a week off.
Yes.
Or plan or if things get a little bit too chaotic, I don't have to really worry about getting that going. And anyway, I feel like I'm probably going to normalize in a little bit, but right now I'm just raring to go. And it's just kind of
that's a cool feeling though.
Yeah.
Just doing it.
It's really, and Sean is a very let's just do it, kind of person. And so it's he's just pedal to the metal. And I think that's actually one of the ways that he and I even each other out pretty well, because he's very much pedal to the metal and I'm very much no, wait. I want to make sure this is going right, but it can be to the point where nothing happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we even each other out, because then I can kind of help pull him to where you're not just going to kill yourself. Yeah. And he helps me actually get out of a dead stop. So, yeah. So
you've been going, you put out 7 episodes in 30 days. I was going through baby. I was this came out on the 8th. Oh, and there's one on the 12th. And there's one on the 16th. And there's one on the 20th. And there's one on the 25th. And I was bruh, okay, well, She's shooting.
Yeah,
That's for sure. You know what? That's exciting. That's cool because you hit what, 300 Instagram followers today?
Yeah, I'm at like 309 now.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And this is all since January.
Yeah, like right before Christmas. Yeah.
What's that feel like, knowing that you're just doing without much of a real plan and it's working? What's that feel like?
It feels like I've failed enough times in other areas to finally get to the point where I get to the part that's right. And I mean that in a way of like, in a manner that makes it so that you don't look at it as a negative thing, but as like this is all part of trying. You try one thing, it doesn't go the way you thought it would. So you try another thing and it doesn't go the way that you thought it would. So I feel like I've done that a lot. I've changed my mind on what it was that I was going to do with myself, with my life so many times. And then it was just kind of each time it happened, I felt more devastated. But eventually only one failure, air quotes, ago.
Yeah.
I had an intriguing discussion with someone who was saying that when you try to do something and it doesn't work out the way that you thought that it would, he was like, kind of like, okay, well, you know, statistically, I think he said 9 out of 10 new businesses fail.
Right.
And so if you were someone who wanted to start up a business, then if you were to fail one time, you'd be like, all right, well, that's one step closer to the time that's going to work.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
mindset. That's it, eh?
The mindset. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was kind of like, yeah, I need to like, just look at all those times in the past where I tried it, like started out on one road and then it ended up just getting stopped. And then it's kind of like, oh, like I had one woman comment to me like, oh, I see you went back to school, but then that just didn't work out for you then, did it? And it was kind of like, it was too much for you kind of thing. And it was just kind of like, you're not very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I was looking back on that and then thinking, no, that was just another step closer to me figuring out what more my niche is. And I feel like I'm finally discovering that spot where my niche is. Talking
about the positive side of being negative.
Yeah.
The oxymoron.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the name. I love all of it. See, it's you and a guest, format wise.
Yes.
So you bring a person on to talk about what, a set topic, or you like, so you figure out a person and then like, how do you go about, for those who may not have listened to an episode before, how do you do what you do?
The first time I did, I asked my friend Rachel too. And then I started just created conversations where people then would be able to bring up like, hey, well, I think maybe I'd be interested in doing that. So then,
right.
But there would be times where we'd be talking and then I just kind of feel like, oh, I feel like they could do a good job. So I'm going to say, hey, do you think you could, like, would you be interested in doing a podcast? And right now I'm fortunate enough that a lot of people are reaching out to me first.
Okay. And so,
which is also a big reason why I've brought out so many so quickly, because I feel like I don't want to keep these people waiting. So it's just like, I'm gonna.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get into the mind of like the new young, fresh podcast person. Not that we're not new, young, and fresh, but like our first month of podcasting was over a year ago. Like is very different. And I feel like the landscape of podcasts in Halifax has changed vastly over the last year. So I think the experience of starting a podcast now will be very different. Mm-hmm. And so,
well, I think like right now it's because of all the hard work that people a year ago have put into it, into like making it become more of a thing that people are recognizing as something to listen to. Like we're now benefiting from the hard work, like what you've laid down.
Right. Thank you. And I guess it's cool because like we're not like, we're just like, we're very new, like paying homage to all of those who've podcasted before us.
Right. Yeah.
But I think there's something cool about, I think the types of, like, you can have a podcast and so, for example, and this is no disrespect at all, but Chip Off the Old Block, Mike Tanner, his podcast, he's talking about potato chips.
Oh yeah. There's
only so many layers of vulnerability you can get into when talking about potato chips. So
maybe you could get into what your favorite flavor reveals about you.
Well, this is what I'm saying, right? Like you got to find the nooks into the depths of soul when it comes to potato chips.
Right.
But I think it's easy to talk about depth when you're talking about depression.
Yes.
I think it's easy to talk about the sadness when you're talking about business and failure. So I'm not saying that like we're the catalysts of like deep conversation, but I think there's certain aspects of the types of conversations that we're having. And I think CTN and Optimistically Depressed are having similar types of conversations in terms of, all right, we're going to peel back. We're going to like, this feels like therapy to me a lot of times.
Yeah.
Talking about all of the shit. So like, I think that's maybe a thing that we're focusing on and pushing to the front of, you know, we can talk about there's wrestling podcasts that talk about what happened at WrestleMania 24. Like there's business, here's how to, but I just think there's something about the openness and the like Oprah-esque, like, we're going to talk about some real shit now, folks. Ready? Okay, cool. Let's do it. But it also be like super like chill.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. I might just ramble on a whole bunch to try to say that, but like it's something in this interesting space.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That does make sense. And I think that a lot of what I was wanting to do, like, you guys were very instrumental in helping this happen for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Ruth.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming to hang with us.
I love it. Like, it's a privilege. Like I said before, but I mean it. It's a privilege. And it was the conversation that we had here that made me think I need to have more conversations like these.
Yeah. What's been the hardest part about having these types of conversations with people?
Sometimes I feel like there's a certain way that I need to be able to help them. Like I feel like because they're opening up like this to me and they're giving me such a gift, I should be able to do something helpful with it. I'm not wanting to disappoint and not wanting to be like, oh, you just bared your soul for me, like to me. And now I'm not offering you anything in return. So
are you offering, like, are you playing the role as helper? Is that how you see your role as?
Yeah, I want to be a helper. And I think that can get a little dangerous because, like, I don't replace therapy. I don't replace a professional.
Right. So I guess the question is, like, what are you trying to help do?
I want to normalize all of these things. I want it to get to the point where you don't need a professional to be able to talk about this stuff. You can just talk about that with your friend. And it can just become a much more normal conversation to have. It
should be that easy, though.
Yeah, it should be that easy. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that I can help create a community where it is that easy, and then where that can spread and it can become, and then I'm not necessary anymore.
Right, because you've like kind of stirred up the ability to have it, and then you fade back. From it. Yeah, that's cool. And I'm curious about like these, like, why are you doing this? Why is this important? Like, I think for people that are listening or who want to listen or have time to listen to a new podcast, I think it's understanding the intention behind the doings of you. It's trendy to talk mental health.
Yes.
So I guess that's kind of where my thinking is coming from. It's like, how in a time where it's cool to do this thing, why are you doing it? Like, aside from it being cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's kind of more like, it's like it's starting a wave and I'm catching the wave, and I want to be able to take that opportunity where the words depression and mental health are coming up more, but being like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because a lot of people now are like, okay, yes, it exists, but what's the next step there?
Right.
And I want to show this is the next step. This is what it looks like. Talking openly about my mental health. And so it can help other people just see what it actually is, so that they can understand more some of the pain or confusion that a person can go through. And also, like, in my case, like, I had it I was diagnosed with it 7 years ago, and I had it for 6 years before I went on medication for it, because I didn't realize how bad it was. And it wasn't until my pastor, he said, this is what it looks like. And then I was like, oh my goodness, what I've been feeling all this time isn't the way that I should be naturally feeling. Right. I just didn't know what it looked like until he told me what it looked like. So now I'm hoping that I can do that on a larger scale, maybe, or the very small scale. No, but
you will. And I guess that's kind of where I'm excited, because I told you this before, like, what is Optimistically Depressed 5 years from now? Because I think it's a conversation that I think we need to continue so that we can push past, like, the trendy phase. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where my thinking is all right, what happens when this isn't cool to talk about? Mm-hmm. Then what? You know what I mean? Like, once there's something else buzzword worthy to focus on, how do we continue the conversation? And I think that becomes the point. Like, all right, this isn't we don't need air quotes around mental health anymore, because we just talk about it and it's normal. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's something about the longevity of this conversation that excites me to see what happens. Like, okay, once being an entrepreneur is not so cool anymore, like, once that fad has worn off, like, all right, let's see what business looks like 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Like, let's see what all the people who are starting businesses now, what they develop in the future, and, like, how does the city change because of it? So I look at it from the same parallel, like, what is it going to do for women in podcasting here in the city? Like, number one, I think that's fucking awesome. And we need more lady voices talking about shit, because men are stupid and we only know certain things. And, like, we need diversity. And I did some interviews for a youth project where it was 6 boys and 2 girls. And the girls were like, this is not fair. All the boys wanted to just team up and do boy things. And we had a really great idea and nobody listened to us. This happened last week. So I think it's powerful to see, because, man, like, this city's going to be on some next level shit. I'm being serious. Okay. Because, man, like, am I crazy for thinking that? Like, do you see what I'm seeing as well?
No, I definitely do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the reason why I laughed. I was laughing at how true it was, what you were saying.
Okay, because you looking at me like I was crazy.
No.
Thank you. Oh, you agreed. You agreed. Okay, cool.
No, I totally agree.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because
I think the reason I was looking at you like you were totally crazy is because I was, like, thinking about how crazy it was that we were actually thinking. Anyway. That's
my point, is that the future of what it is that we're doing, we don't know the impact. We don't realize what's going to happen. I think that's the coolest part about it, but I think we're all on the right track. And so, again, like, that's why I'm excited to see what happens. So, like, what do you want to do with the show? Like, what is the future of Optimistically Depressed look like? Like what how do you know it's successful? Like what does that look like?
If the conversation starts going beyond me, if I could start some kind of a larger environment of where people can openly talk about their mental health stuff and then continue to talk about it after I leave.
Yeah.
Then that would be awesome. That
was my question I had earlier, was like, how do you take something that's digital and not really inclusive of people? Because like really it's like you and me in this room talking to each other.
Yeah.
How do we involve, and then we take it to the internet, and so like we try to get the internet involved, and like how do we then get humans involved from this thing that we're creating for the internet? Mm-hmm. So that like, how do these conversations, like how does this develop from like at a human level? Because we want to have these conversations, but like we want to have them off the internet. Like what does that look like?
I think it kind of looks like a lot like what the Halifax Social Network is doing.
Okay.
Like having get-togethers.
Okay. Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
I could see that.
I saw the benefit in that. Like I started to really think about how that could be beneficial when I spoke at the pod camp.
Yes.
Because afterwards, when people were asking questions, it just brought up a really cool conversation about like where people weren't just asking me questions. They were talking to each other and they were discussing just what different things could look like. And
sprinkled your magic dust on people, and then they went to action. That's cool.
Yeah, it was like they were just coming through and being them awesome selves.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about podcasting?
I really enjoy helping give the other person a voice when I'm doing that. I find that to be really exciting because of the way that I felt when I came on here.
Right.
So I wanted to help create more people like you.
Stop making me blush, Ruth. It's working.
Okay.
So maybe you could keep doing it.
Okay.
Okay. How do you see yourself growing and evolving from being a podcast person?
Well, this goes to, honestly, answering that question would open up a vulnerability with me.
Okay.
I get very secretive about what I hope for.
Okay.
And the reason for that was because kind of what I was talking about before, like because of how I would talk about what I was kind of hoping for, and then it would just never happen. So It was just like those failures.
Right.
But I see it kind of maybe turning into some books.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Okay.
And
why you say it with such hesitation?
Because it might not, and then I look like an idiot.
No.
It's like I said it was going to maybe happen.
No. I think it's cool that you're dreaming and putting into the universe that you're going to be an author. Like, that's badass. Like, but you have to believe that. You know that, right?
Yes. I do. And
good.
Yes. Thanks to conversations that you and I have had.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of what started the ball rolling, actually. Oh my goodness, all these things that you've done for me in just one sitting. You're the magical person. Oh my goodness. It's like...
What did I do?
You were the master and I was your Padawan.
Ooh. Padawan?
Padawan?
What's that? Padawan?
Star Wars?
Oh, I don't know that reference. Sorry.
That's okay. Like a student.
Okay, like Yoda and Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, still Star Wars.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Ruth, what did I do this time?
Well, because you're saying that I would be in that room and help sprinkle my little, and that's exactly what you did for me.
It worked. Ruth, I told you I got a plan over here. That's my plan.
You're just the orchestrator.
I'm just living my truth, Ruth. That's it. If it happens to help people get this shit done, then cool. And I think that's what we all should be doing. Like I think that's the whole fucking point. Like, if Optimistically Depressed is not inspiring people to have conversations, start podcasts, talk about depression, like then Ruth, you're wasting your time. Like, yeah, unless you're doing it out of just pure love or just wanting to do it. But that should be the point, to create something so amazing that it impacts people.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be really cool if if what I was doing could help create another podcast that was potentially reaching more people than I was reaching, and it kind of like starts the echo effect. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I think there's this is why we got to keep having crossover, coming on each other's shows and talking about stuff. Cause like, that's what it takes. You know, we grassroots in the fuck out of this. So we got to help each other at the ground level and help each other build, because it only makes Halifax better. If there's 37 dope podcasts in Halifax, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be just 3. We should all be lit.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, and this is going to be my last tidbit before you go.
Yes.
You write.
Yeah.
So what are the parallels for writing and podcasting? And like, how are they very similar? How are they like painfully different?
I find that I write much clearer than I speak.
Okay.
I can more accurately describe a feeling by writing about it than I can when I'm speaking about it.
Okay.
So I think that sometimes people people respond to a lighter, kind of more simply put way of something and like communicating something. And so that's when, talking, the podcast, that kind of thing, that's when that is most beneficial. Right. And then when someone really like kind of allows information to soak in better by sitting down and reading something.
Right. Your show's an hour-ish, about an hour, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you find it hard to talk for an hour?
No.
No? Just goes?
Yeah. And it's not because of anything I'm doing.
What do you mean?
I find that so far I've been so lucky to have on like really talkative people who are able to really carry a conversation that there's not really much that I have to do in order to help the conversation go that long.
Yeah. Would you encourage other people to podcast? But that's like such a boring question that I don't want to ask you.
Yeah. Okay.
The other question would be like, what advice would you give somebody starting a podcast? But that question sucks too, because I feel like that's like pretty generic. But I'm curious, because I know what motivates me, but I know that a lot of people don't have that. Like, I just have a drive and like a will to do things. But I'd be curious, like, what kind of story or experience you can share in the short period of time that you've been a podcaster to sprinkle knowledge onto the world of those who may be thinking about it. Because there are people who are thinking about it, who will listen to you. And because Ruth's doing the shit that she's doing, they will start a podcast. Like, let's just be honest. That's going to happen. So I kind of wanted you to give the people something to sleep on and soak into their brains when they're like, oh man, I don't think I should do that thing. You know what? I remember what Ruth said on the Changing the Narrative podcast. I'm going to do my shit. So like, what can you share with the people?
I would say that from my personal experience, the more I've become openly passionate about something and not afraid to express that passion, as the fear starts to lessen, the passion grows faster. Like, it's kind of like it starts to break out a little bit, and then maybe I'm mistaken because I'm still just experiencing this, but it seems that it's like all of a sudden it bursts out.
Yeah.
And if you kind of just remember what why you're passionate about something in the first place, then you're going to feel a lot more willing to be open about it and look at fear, look at your own fear and in the face and try to overcome all the ways that you're holding back.
When you look fear in the face, what does it look like?
When I look fear in the face, it's other people's opinions of me. Yeah, them just kind of being disappointed. Like, oh, she's not really what I thought that she would be.
Oh, that sounds like a them problem, Ruth.
That totally does, eh?
Yeah.
I feel like we're in therapy, a very, very great therapy session.
I'm telling you, I love this. Love hanging. Love talking. Just asking questions. Because people learn from this shit. I don't know how. I don't know why. They fuck with us. And they listen to us. And we just ramble sometimes and just babble on. But sometimes that's what your friends do when you're just hanging out with them. And they just talk a bunch of nonsense and you just pretend like you didn't hear that part and you just keep going on and enjoying your day. Wow. We're at 57 minutes, Ruth.
Okay. Yeah, let's wrap this sucker up.
This is perfect. No, we're doing great. No, we're doing perfect.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm very pleased with the way in which this has progressed. Do you have anything else you want to leave the people with?
I love all of you very much. I said that.
The people love you too, Ruth.
I just mean like I do genuinely hope that you can find some help or like clarity, find some clarity on this. And it's like, I just wish for you to have a fulfilled and happy life. And if I can in some any way, like, and I know that you obviously feel the same way, in any way help bring that to happening, then I will be very happy to do my part. So I love you.
We love you too, Ruth. Where do they find you on the interwebs?
I'm on Instagram at Optimistically Depressed. And you can find me on iTunes and Spotify. I'm just Optimistically Depressed.
Boom. What's your favorite episode so far?
I want to say my last one, but I think it's because it's the freshest one in my mind.
Yeah.
I got to do one with my cousin.
How's that?
That was really nice because she's so lovely. And I think that was when I was starting to not be as nervous, and it kind of helped me be a little bit more like relaxed. Cause like you're always like, just so, I think part of it was because I was just thinking, if I totally suck at this because I just have completely let myself go, my cousin will be more not to say other people wouldn't be more understanding to like coming back, but it wouldn't feel as much of like wasting their time.
Right.
I'm she's my cousin. I can waste her time.
Yeah, of course.
Just like she can waste my time.
Thanks, cousin. So that was when I was kind of like able to kind of experiment a little bit more, get a little bit more, even though it might be done in very subtle ways, be more risky about how I would approach different things and like be a little bit more aggressive in the way that I was asking questions or that kind of thing. It allowed me to experiment a bit more. And I think maybe because it was a growing experience, it was more enjoyable. I'm proud of you, Ruth.
Thank you.
It's really cool seeing you do what you're doing.
Thank you.
Don't stop.
Okay.
Because we need it. I'm being serious. The interwebs and the earwaves. We need it. Optimistically Depressed. Where can we listen if you want to listen?
iTunes and Spotify.
Boom, bam. Anything else?
I think that's everything.
That's it, y'all.
Yeah.
This is Changing Narrative Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Told you to kill it. You're all nervous and shit for no reason.
Was I?
Fucking crushed it. What do you mean? You kicked ass. I told you would. You don't be believing me when I'm telling you these things, Ruth.